Hi, and welcome to another session of Sri Lanka DevOps community. In today's session, we are going to discuss about how to run unit tests on Docker files and actually on Docker containers, and how to get the output when we are running the same test in Docker containers using Azure pipelines, and publish the results to the Azure pipelines. Why we are doing this is when we want to do testing in the target container image. Actually, we can't do it on the runtime image, but we are capable of doing it in the SDK image, which somewhat guarantees the actual implementation of the application will work fine, because the functionality is verified with unit tests and integration tests, which are run on the same SDK image, which will be actually building the Docker container image, and then we will be putting it into run in the same target base Docker image. To understand how to get the Docker image to run unit tests and then publish the results into the Azure pipelines, let's jump into a demo. I have a sample project created here. In this project, there's a very simple service which is just finding out the prime numbers, and to test this method out, there are a couple of tests written in NUnit and XUnit just to demonstrate the tests can be run using NUnits and XUnits in the pipeline using the Docker containers. In this example, I don't have any actual application that is running on Docker containers, but just a set of unit tests to prove these unit tests can run on Docker images and containers, and then the purpose is to demonstrate how to get the actual test results into the Azure pipeline output. As of now, there are pipelines implemented here, A1 pipeline with multiple jobs which are running to get the unit tests executed both in Windows and Linux platforms, considering that we will be running our application both on Windows and Linux platform, considering some other dependencies. Both of these jobs refer to the same set of steps. The steps are build OS is getting as a parameter, and then we are running the use.NET and then .NET build and a .NET test step. This is just in the pipeline, so we are not yet running this in Docker container context, which we are going to do next. But let's just look at the pipeline as well, how it is got executed. The pipeline has run the .NET tests in both platforms, and then it has produced results. If we go to tests, we can see 124 test results have been produced, and if we check the past tests here, we should be able to see there are 31 tests in Linux and there are 31 tests in Windows, and there are two sets of runs because we have both XUnit and NUnit tests. The same tests are implemented in both test mechanisms. So what we are going to do is get a Docker container created to run these tests in the pipeline. So let's begin that. Generally, we are creating Docker files inside the project file, relevant project file. But in this scenario, we are going to execute all the tests in a single Docker file, using a single Docker file in a container. So we will place this Docker file inside the pipelines because it's more relevant to the pipelines, not to the actual code. So let's create a folder called Docker files and then add a new Docker file. Let's create with the Linux one first. Linux unit tests.dockerfile. we can close this one. And what we have to begin is just from, I want to use mcr.microsoft. It suggests me .NET 3.1, but my project is on Windows, not Windows, my project is on .NET 7, so I'll use .NET 7 instead. Since I am going to use Linux, I will prefer to use Alpine image here. But to ensure I'm using the correct tag, I'll get it copied from the tag list. Okay, we have correctly copied the tag. So just to make sure we have this image downloaded into my Docker desktop, and to ensure the Docker desktop is running, just let's have a look. And is it running in Linux mode? We just have to verify. So yeah, it seems it's running on Linux mode, so that's fine. And the image is there, but to ensure I'm having the latest, I'll do a Docker pull here. Then let's copy this image, and it is having the latest version, so I don't have any problem there. So let's begin changing this one. So I want to make it a test runner because I'm going to run tests only here. Then let's call this tests instead of src. Then let's begin copy the test project and restore. So my copy should do, okay, I don't want to copy like this, but I just want to make sure I'm copying the lib first. So I'll copy the relative path from there and just paste it here. Then I'll change it. So let's copy it to the src lib. Yeah, correctly suggested. Then let's copy the test projects. So again, wrong suggestions probably, and let's try to copy the path of the NUnit test here. So this is the correct one. Then let's have it change to, yes, NUnit tests. GitHub Copilot is somewhat helpful, but sometimes bit annoying as well. I need to copy XUnits as well. Yes. And it seems this time it picked the correct path and correct project name. Now we need to do the restoration of get packages, and this is fine, but I just want to make sure I specify the runtime as Linux muscle 64, and then let's do other project restore as well. So both NUnit and XUnit project, let's restore, and after that let's do a copy and let's ensure we run the tests. So we can call that run the test, and then yes, we can run the test for NUnit, but we need to provide additional parameters like no build and probably configuration as release and a log file. So let's specify a log as well. So we specify trx log and then we specify a log file name. So we need to do the same thing for the xunits as well. So Copilot is really helping me here to suggest the things. But there is a mistake here that we need to correct. That is, we should not use no build because we are not having a separate build step. We just restore and then we execute the tests. So let's try to build this Docker image. Now we have saved our Docker image. We'll make sure it's saved, and then let's proceed into building this Docker image. Let's say build Docker build, and let's say no cache, and let's try to say additional command, that is progress to be plain, so that we will get the detail log. And then let's tag this image. Once it's created, unit tests dev, and then we have to provide the Docker file name that we can copy from here, the relative path, and let's paste that one, and we'll provide the Docker context as the current location, that is the root of the repo. That's a typo. Let's correct that. So now the Docker command executes and we can see the NUnit project is getting restored. It will take a couple of seconds, and once that is completed, we can see the xunit test project is getting restored. Once the both projects are restored, NUnit tests are getting executed. We can see the tests are getting executed, and we can see all 31 tests passing. And once we have the xunit tests also completed, the Docker build is entirely completed, and there will be a new image created if we try to Docker image ls. We can see our new image unit test dev is created here. Now how to obtain this trx file that we have created? We need to obtain it from the Docker file and copy it to the repo root or somewhere in the pipeline, because otherwise we won't be able to publish the test results. So we only have the test results file available right now in the Docker image. So we have to get the Docker image created as a container. To do that, we can do Docker, type it in the right place, Docker create, then we can provide a name for the container. The name should be, let's say, unit tests, and then we need to use we have to use interactive, and we need to make sure we can connect to it and then obtain the file. So we need to use IT because it's interactive and TTY, so that we can get the interaction happening in the interactive mode. So we need to use IT. Then we can say what is the image, that is unit tests dev. So this should create a container for us. I think I might have made a typo here. Unit tests. Yes, I'm missing an S, so let me add this here. Okay, we have got the container created. Now once the container created, we can execute a Docker copy command, and we can name according to the name we have provided here. So that is name unit tests. So I'll copy that one and paste it here. So this is a mistake, it's not like that. So we have to say docker cp unit test, and then we can provide the path. We can find out the path from the from the log that we have created. So it is tests, and then from there to this one to get the xunit tests. So let's try that out here first. Okay, what's a mistake? Oh, that is, I didn't provide destination. So let's provide a destination as local so that you can see the unit test execution file for the xunit test is copied successfully now. So if you want to copy the nunit test file, we can again find the file path from the log, or we can just make sure we rename to nunit here and here. Then when we hit enter, the nunit test results also copied. So same way we can execute these commands in the pipeline. But before proceeding further, we have to ensure if there is a failure test, we are not stopping the test run, so that it goes on and still executes both the test runs or whatever the number of projects that we have to execute and provide the results. Let's test whether the failures will handle properly. To do that, let's go to the one of the test projects and try to create, because we are executing the nunit test first, let's try to fail nunit tests and then see what will happen. So I'm going here to the prime service test in nunit, and let's try to create another test which is actually failing. So I'll just copy one of these. And take fail, and we don't have to execute anything, we'll just do a assert fail, and then we'll just leave it like that. We can provide probably fake fail. So we can ensure this works by again running the container. So before we run the container, let's clean up whatever the images that we have. I'll do it via Docker desktop because it's much easier to do that way. Okay, we have a running container, so let's get that deleted first. It's not a running container, but it's a created container. So let's remove that, and then let's go and delete the image as well. Let's try and see what will happen. Okay, it's better to execute a CLS to clear the screen, and let's execute this one. Oops, no, it's not the copy command I wanted to execute. I rather wanted to execute this. Now this time we should have a unit test failure in any. Ideally we would like it to proceed and show us the test results for both the test runs. Let's see what will happen. So we can see once we have the failure test, actually the test run didn't continue. So how do we make sure in our Docker file, once the test is failing, a unit test is failing, still it continues and produces the test results file. Now this one will produce a test result file, but it's not for the other project. So only the nunit test executed, not the xunit test. So if you have multiple projects, only the first project with the failure will stop the Docker build run. That will cause other projects to not execute the tests. So we have to make sure we are continuing tests even though we have failure tests. To do that, we can simply add another step here. That is, what we are getting as the results of this one is it's actually getting an exit code of 1. So we have to make sure we are not actually throwing that exit 1. So we'll say rather exit 0 here. So let's try that. Yes, we have exit 0 set up like this, the O condition kind of thing. So let's see if it works. So let's get any images or anything. No, so we are good there. So let's do CLS here and let's do a rerun. Still we are restoring the projects, and once the restoration completed, it will proceed to the test run. And you can see there's a failure test, but still it continues. And we can see now it has fully executed and both the test results files are generated. So this is what we want. We now have our Linux container for running the test fully ready. Let's try to create a Windows one now. So for that I'll just copy the entire code from here and let's add a new file and name it Windows my naming is bad. Windows unit tests .docker file, and I'll copy over these things and save it first, and let's rename this properly and say Linux unit tests. Okay, now it's correct. So let's keep it like that. And what do we have to change here? We can actually run with the nano server, because let's assume my target environment would be the nano server. So we can have it like this, and we don't have to change anything else here, but we have to change the runtime as Win64. So this should be the only change that is necessary for Windows. So once we have our Linux done, it's easy to create the Windows one. We just change the image tag here and we used these Windows runtime settings. Let's save it and let's try to execute this one. But before that, we have to make sure we are switching to Windows containers. To do that, let's leave these things as it is. We don't mind that. So let's switch to Windows containers. So I'm switching to Windows containers here. Now you can see Windows containers are loaded, and let's ensure that we have the latest of this image by executing a docker pull. Yeah, we do have. So we do a clear screen, and probably I'll get the previous docker command and just remove this progress pane, which is not necessary for Windows, and still I'll name it unit test dev. So we don't have a unit test dev now because we switch to Windows containers now. So I'll copy the name from here to avoid mistakes. That's the directory path, and I provide the context as the root of the repo. And let's try to execute it for Windows. I'll make sure my Docker file is read, and we are running again. So this time it is for Windows. Now in the Windows container, it will be taking a little bit more time to restore the projects than in the Linux. Obviously Linux is faster. It took about 8 seconds. And we have to restore for another project, that is the XUnit project. So it will take few more seconds, I guess. So it's taking a little bit time, but it should be done in a moment. We have the project restoration completed. We should proceed into the rest of the steps. Okay, it's proceeding. And we can see it's trying to execute the .NET tests for the NUnit project. And we can see a failure happen because we have a fake failure. And that is totally fine. And still it is proceeding to execute the XUnit tests. And there all the tests passing. And we are done. And we can see all the test results files are produced in the correct location. So what we can do now is proceed and create the pipeline steps necessary to execute this in the pipeline. Let's now close the two Docker files that we have created. We have created a Docker file and we have altered the test. For now, let's just try to keep this failure test commented so that we have everything as success when we initially try. So let's proceed here. And in the pipelines, let's try to create some pipeline templates. We need a set of steps. So let's try to copy this file and probably paste it here and rename it. Let's rename it to Docker. And we can close the terminal now probably. Let's minimize it, or we can still use the parameter so that we can produce the test results in nicer way. And we don't need to use .NET 7 or anything like that here because we are going to execute the Docker commands. To execute the Docker commands, what we can do is we can use a PowerShell task. So I'll remove all these tasks from here first, and then I'll start typing PowerShell maybe. And let's put a display name build and unit test, and probably we need to use inputs. That's big suggestion, but let's not take all those things. So we don't need any of these. Let's remove that, and then let's go ahead and change a couple of things. Target should be inline, that is fine, but we need to make sure we have to fail on standard error true, and let's execute this on PWS hash. That is true, and we have to set the working directory. That is suggesting build source directory, but I would like to use build repository local path. It's called build repository local path. Yes, that's the correct one. And then let's try to write down our Docker commands. So probably to avoid making mistakes, let's try to copy the commands from here. So here, Windows, we need to use the Windows test Docker file. So in that case, we might have to use two separate steps. So probably find a way to use two tasks maybe. Let's think about that later, but let's proceed with these steps now. We can write a if something and then make sure we run the correct value. So we can write a if statement, probably build OS equal Linux. Yes, so we can do like that. So let's remove this, and we do unit test dev, and then we use Linux for Linux and Windows for Windows. So that will do the trick for us. And if we want to have progress stuff as well here, it's possible. So we can say progress equal plain. So that is also there. So I'll make this window a little bit bigger to make things easier for us. Now next command we should be executing is let's do a docker image ls, just to see oh, not that, I just want an ls. Okay, and then after docker image ls, then not a docker run but a docker create, we will just say name unit test and unit test dev. So that is what exactly we want, I think so. So let's anyway double check. I think I have the commands. Yeah, and we have to make sure we use the interactive. So IT. Alright, so that's better, we check the original one. And then once that is created, then we need to do a docker cp. So we need to copy it from unit test, and we have to make sure the paths are correct. So probably I'll copy from CLS here. Oops. CLS here, and try to copy the command that I had earlier. So my path would be, yes, not that, but this. Okay. So that is for the N unit, and we need to have a X unit one as well. Let's try to change this from here to here as X unit. Probably change this to X unit, and this should be also X unit. So this will make two files copied, and if we don't want, we can remove the container as well. It's not mandatory to do that, but we can. So let's try to docker container rm unit test, and then let's force it. Yes, so that is good enough, I think, for this particular task. So it will actually execute the tests and then generate the necessary test output in the TRX files. The next task we need to do is we don't need to do anything else but publish the test results. Yes, we need to publish the test results. So let's yeah, it looks nice, but yeah, we have NUnit test TRX and XUnit test TRX, but I would like to rename these files to make more sense. So probably we have to start from our Docker files. So let's go to the Docker files and modify this a little bit, just to say Docker here. So we know those are tests on Docker. Right, since we have renamed the files here, we have to make sure we are doing the same thing. Windows. So we go ahead and change Windows Docker file as well. So we renamed both the Docker files, so we are doing a change here as well. Okay, that's good enough, and we are copying it from the build repository local path, and we don't have to say, I think, double slash asterisk, because we already know it's in the root of the repository path, because it's our working directory here. And we can say this is unit tests Docker, probably, or Docker unit tests, and let's put an underscore just to look nice in the test results, probably. And this should do. The steps are okay, but we need to create job to do this, and we can have two jobs like same way we have here. So we have to have Linux job and a Windows job. So let's copy the first one and then just paste it and rename it as Docker, and instead of unit test I need to make sure it calls Docker. So we'll say build and test Linux Docker here. Okay, and we should pass OS as Linux, and we can copy this one now, and we can paste it and say rename, and we can rename this to Windows. So we are having the Windows job now. So Windows Docker job, oops, it shouldn't execute on Ubuntu. So it seems I have made a big mistake here. No, I have correctly done. So I'll put this as Windows 2019. Yes, that is Windows 2019, and then we need to make sure we are executing these steps, and we need to make sure we are passing build OS as Windows. So this is good enough. That's not copied. Let's copy that and make sure here also it says Windows. So we can name this job also Docker. We have to name this job also Docker. Build an unit test job. Build an unit test Windows job. Okay, so let's name this one Linux job, and let's name this one Linux Docker job, and this one Windows Docker job. Otherwise we won't be able to have 4 jobs probably. So as long as they are not in the same state, that will be okay, but I think we don't have to have a mistake here, so let's fix it properly. And then in the stages for the build and unit test, we can copy from here and we can add another stage, or we can just copy this file and paste that file, and then we can rename that to Docker. Once we have it as Docker, what we can do is we can name this as Docker, the stage, and we can say unit test Docker here, and we just have to make sure we are referring to not Linux but Linux Docker here, and instead of Windows Docker here. So that will do, and once that is there, so we have to refer this stage in our pipeline, so we have to say as well as this normal build and unit test which is executing on the agent, we just have to say no, we don't need parameters here because we know exactly what we are doing, so we have to just say Docker. So it will point to the Docker stage. So this should be it. Let's try to commit this and see if it works. So let's commit this. Okay, we don't need to commit these 2 files, so let's make sure we are deleting that. Let's undo those 2 and let's commit all these other changes because those are necessary. Let's have the failure test commented as well. Later we can enable it and see what happens when a failure test is there. So let's run this. Let's provide a comment saying execute tests on Docker with pipeline, and let's commit this and let's push this. Let's have a look at our pipeline, how it is getting executed. So go to pipelines and we can see a run is happening. Let's see. Yes, there are 2 stages. Okay, my bad, I made the Docker not parallel. So while this is happening, let's try to fix that. So it's not parallel stages now because it's in 2 dependent stages, it seems. Until this is getting executed, let's try to fix that as well. So let's go to the code and Why? So this should be, let's close all these windows and let's switch to my stage here. So probably we have to set a depends on here. Yes, depends on as empty. And let's set this particular stage also as depends on empty. So let's push this change and see what will happen. So we are making both stages independent of each other, so they should execute parallelly. Make stages parallel. Let's push that change. Oh, we can see our Linux tests are already fading. We can have a look at that and get it fixed later. But let's see, at least our parallel mechanism works now. Yes, it seems stages are parallel now. And while that is happening, let's look at what is this error. Okay, both Linux and Windows failed. The issue is actually, it seems we have used the wrong way to reference to a parameter. So it's referred as a variable, it looks like. So let's fix that. That should be fixed in the steps. So it should be referred to as a parameter. So parameters should be referred to as with braces. We need two braces. What did happen? Okay, I'm pressing wrong keys. The build always should be parameters dot. Yeah, that should be the case. And there shouldn't be any brackets here. The bracket should be only for the if. So this should probably fix this. Let's try to commit and see. Fix build this reference. Let's push this. Another build should execute now. Let's see what happens this time. It seems now it is executing. So we can see both Windows and Linux ones are getting executed. And let's see if the test results are produced. So it seems this is running on fine. And if we check the Windows job, it should be running on. Oh, there's a failure. It's fine. This is running on Windows for sure. But what's the failure now? Okay, I think I have something specified wrong here because the unit test file is wrong. Let's figure it out. We have actually renamed the file to Docker, but I think there's somewhere I have not properly renamed. So let's go and check that one. So it should be in this copy. Oh yeah, it's only referring to tests, not the Docker. So let's copy it from the Docker file to be safe. Let's go to Docker file and let's ensure we have the correct TRX file name here. So let's copy that for the N unit and let's copy the other one for the X unit. So we have identified how to figure out the errors and how to get them fixed as well. That's better. So let's commit this fix trx file names. Oh, let's double check this one as well. Okay, it's Docker. It's correct. Okay, so let's commit and see. So we push the changes. There should be a new pipeline running now. Yeah. Probably let's cancel the older one because okay, it's anyway done. So let's forget about that and let's have an eye on the Linux one because it's getting executed faster than the Windows one. So Windows one also running. So but we can check what happens with the Linux one first. So it's copying the stuff. And then trying to restore the projects. Yeah, there might be mistakes there. So let's go and investigate to get that fixed. But this seems the tests have run properly. Both tests have run and it's done. And image is properly tagged. And then there's some set of errors. Probably we have to remove the fail on standard error because that might be causing problems when the stuff is written. So let's anyway remove that and then see what happens. No fail on standard error stream. So that's because the normal messages are treated as error messages in sometimes. So we don't need to fail that. It's default false anyway. So let's not fail that. So I pushed it. Let's go back. Oh, our Windows one has succeeded in the previous run. So it has published the test results as well. Okay, that's good. So that's some good news. So let's inspect the Windows one first because we have results there. So let's say not passed and everything passed or whatever. And let's try to see if our Docker unit tests are there. Yes, those are there. So this is okay. Now we only have Docker unit tests here. We have not properly named it as Windows and Linux. So we better do that as well. So how can we do that? Let's go to our steps. Build an unit test. So probably we have to use this parameter in the test results title. That'll be better, because then it will show as Windows and Linux. So let's hope that'll work, and then let's set test title with OS, and let's commit this one as well. So it's committed now, so we should have a pipeline running with that one, and we can check if the previous pipeline also good, because we fixed something for Linux. Yes, Linux is fixed. That is the standard error stream. So, but anyway, let's wait for this run to see the results. While that is happening, we can actually try to commit the fake failure for the unit tests. I want to expedite things because we kind of have run out of time. So let's enable this fake failure, and let's commit that as well. Fake failure. So we can inspect everything together once the test runs are completed. So now this one is fake failure. So fake failure is also committed. So there should be a new run. Yes, new run is happening, and probably this one will succeed with everything. So let's wait for that. But this will not have proper titles for the test results. Still it will have, I guess it will have same title. Linux unit tests, Windows unit test, Linux unit test, and Windows unit test. Okay, so we should have put it as instead of Docker unit tests, we should have called it Windows Docker. It's okay, but we can do that changes anytime. So you understand how to change it. So if you want to make that change as well, but we don't have to wait for that, but let's just make that change as well until the pipelines are running. So in here, in our steps, we just have to, instead of putting it at the end, we can cut it and probably put it in the very beginning. And if we want, we can put an underscore as well. So call this fixed title, and probably let's remove the fake failure as well. So this one should succeed, so as the fake failure. Let's remove the fake failure. Okay. Fixed title. No fake fail. Okay, that's good. Let's push this one. And let's look at the runs. Okay, this one has fully succeeded, and in our test runs we should be able to see everything has passed, even the Linux runs and Docker runs. So we can see Docker unit test Windows 2, and then Docker unit test Linux 1, and Docker unit test Windows 1 and Linux 2. So this is getting 1, 2 because of we have 2 test projects. So we might be able to find out a mechanism to probably name them properly, but based on the executing project or something, then we can do multiple publish. But then actually we should we should do something else. I forgot that, so I'll mention that as well, because here if we have a test run failure, we should fail here. Otherwise what will happen is, even if the tests fail, the pipeline will show as success. So our fake failure should be enabled and retested. So let's enable fake failure again. Oops. I'll enable fake failure, and so we should be able to see fake failure. Let me say this is fake fail, and so last time we should have a failure test, but still probably the pipeline has shown it as succeeded. So let's go and inspect that one. Last fake fail thing. Oh, fake failure. It will anyway fail because we do have unit tests here, but from this perspective it succeeded. That is wrong. So this time, the last run, we have the fake failure. Let's cancel this build. This is no longer necessary. Yes, probably this one also. Let's cancel that, and let's keep the fake failure, and this is fake fail, so it should fail all the tests. So let's inspect that in a little while, and in the meantime let's go ahead and remove the fake fail. So let's remove the fake fail and just say all should pass. Pass now. Okay, let's see. Okay, so we have to wait till to test run, and then we can be happy. So our fake fail actually should fail. So it's starting to fail. We can see correctly failing. So let's go in the build and unit test process. It's not failing, so it's producing the test results. So you can see here 0 failed, 31 passed, but here the fake failure happened, and that fake failure test has failed, and the one is 31 is passed. But in the published test results, actually since there is a failure test, it is failing. So it's failing the entire unit test execution, and this one should also result in same, and this one will fail and this one will fail. So that's how it is going to happen. And for the all should pass, we can go and inspect probably Linux. Yes, Linux is faster. So you can see here everything has passed. Here also everything has passed because we don't have the fake failure test here, so it's fine. And Windows ones are also getting executed. It will take some time, but it will pass. So essentially what we have understood is how to build unit test in Docker containers, and how to build and run unit tests in Docker containers, and how to get that results output into the repo root from the Docker container. So what we can do is, using the image, we can create a container and obtain the file, results file, and then publish that into the pipeline so that we can weave the test results in the pipeline itself. So let's do a final look at our thing, and we can see fake failures keep on failing, and we are still waiting for Windows container to be done. Yes, it is done. And if we go and inspect now the tests, we should see 4 test failures, because fake fail has failed in Linux unit test run and Windows unit test run. This is run on the agent, and this is Linux Docker unit test run, that is run on the Docker container, and this is the Windows Docker unit test run, which is actually failed on the Windows Docker container. And if we go back to the pipeline and inspect the Windows run also, actual Docker container test execution has not failed, it is proceeded, and publishing test results has failed it because there's a failure test available. So this is how it should be implemented. And if we go to all should pass now, this is still executing, but it will definitely pass with everything. We can see it's 100% passing here, and it is still executing. So let's not worry about that. It should pass, but until that is passing, let's further look at the results here. So we'll get the pass and fail everything. So in that case, we would be able to see this is 31 tests. Oh yeah, exactly, because this is passing because XUnit test doesn't have any fake failures, but there's 32 tests in the NUnit test which is having one test failure, that is a fake fail. So that is correctly shown here, and the same result should be there for the Linux test. On Docker you can see there's no failure for XUnit, but there's failure for NUnit because we have additional fake fail test. So this concludes that what we have understand correctly, how to run it and how to produce the results to the Azure DevOps pipeline. So let's just once more inspect whether our test run is done, just to see that how much time it will need more. It's almost done, it seems. So there's one more thing to run. So let's wait till this completes and then we can end today's session. It was a little bit over time, but I hope it is useful information and you have learned something, and we are hoping to conduct more sessions like this in future. So let's wait a few more seconds just till this publishes. Yes, all that is good, and thank you very much for listening to me for more than an hour. So we will look forward to bring you another new session in the next month. Thanks.